everyone. Welcome to another at-home edition of Get It Girl. I'm your girl, Natasha Martinez, with an incredible guest today, a list that matches just all of the goals that you have. Her name is Mirtha Michelle. She's a Dominican-born poet, author, actress, and artist, and we're going to dive into all of her projects. Thank you so much, Mirtha, for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
So, I mean, one of your books, Letters to the Men I Have Loved, spent over 2 years in the top 20 best-selling love poems category on Amazon. And now you have your most recent 18 Inches, The Distance Between the Heart and Mind, which debuted September 15th. Tell me about the evolution of your writings, your poems, and especially this new project, 18 Inches, and what that's all about.
Well, I began writing when I was a little girl. I was 6 years old when I wrote my first poem, and Letters to the Men I Have Loved was my first published work, and it changed my life. I always say I will forever be grateful for that book, and it's my first baby. I'm like one of those moms that, you know, that my work are my kids, because I don't have any kids of my own yet. So my books are my babies, and that forever will always be my first baby that I keep dear in my heart. And it began the journey that I've been on now for the last 6 years, which has led me to publishing my fourth book, 18 Inches, The Distance Between the Heart and the Mind. And yeah, the books really speak, I wouldn't say just women, but I would say people in general, because we all love and we all experience pain as well. But I always like to remind people that we could also all rise from the ashes, right? We could all rise from the pain, and they're all just really positive stories. I've used my own personal experiences alongside with the poetry inspired by all of these experiences to inspire people and to motivate others and to believe in themselves, to love themselves primarily. And yeah, and it's been a fun ride. It's been a fun ride. And now my fourth book, 18 Inches, it just hit stores a few weeks ago, like a month ago, or maybe.
Yes, like September. That. Yeah, I know. Time flies these days.
I know, it's so crazy. It's so insane.
What are days even more? Like, what are they? It's like, what's a Monday at this point?
I actually, sometimes I find myself on a Saturday or Sunday writing to people emails about work. And sometimes I think, should I wait until Monday? And then I'm like, you know what, just do it now. The days don't matter. People are working from home anyways.
Exactly. So I love the point that you brought up, that you wrote your first poem at 6 years old, because that was one of my questions was, you know, you're so eloquent with your words and very in touch with your feelings. And I feel like that's something that people learn later in life and sometimes never learn at all. So knowing that you were so young when you were able to really tap into that side of you, how do you think that you got there? Was that something that you learned from your family? Was it just always a natural thing to you?
I think my mom is a bit of a great communicator without her even realizing that she is. So I definitely got that from her. But I think I have personality traits from both of my parents. So I grew up in a home in which feelings and emotions were welcomed. It was a positive thing to express how you felt and your views on the world, your experiences, right? So for me, early on, I always felt that it was okay. I think that in terms of me communicating and maybe having a gift for that, also really came from my desire and I feel that I was immediately attracted to the human experience since I was a child. I was always interested in how other people thought about things and what triggered them and what didn't. And I think that just me learning to be observant since an early age allowed me to communicate with people better, to the point that I feel that I'm able to understand what they're going through and and get into their hearts, if that makes any sense.
You know, as you're talking about really doing that and empathizing with people, I think to your acting career, right? Did that sort of talent of really putting yourself in someone else's shoes help you with your acting? And what came first? Was it being an author and creative, or an actress?
Well, it's interesting because I say that my first passion was writing, because that's what I began to do innately since I was a child. I always kept a diary. I knew that I was going to publish a book by the age of 7. I would say it. I always knew that I was going to be a published author, right? But then when I entered television, I wanted to do what you do. I wanted to host.
I
And
want to do what you do, like be a creative.
so I began I worked on a TV show when I was a teenager, and that's how I got into television. And then, but I always, deep down, I always knew that I was going to publish a book, and that I wanted to release my poetry. And you know, poetry for me was always my passion, but I didn't think you could make money off of it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And I always thought, okay, I'm gonna do things eventually. And I was just allowing for life to take its course, right? And but I was always consistently writing, to the point that when I published my first book, Letters to Men I Have Loved, I in that book there was a lot of the poetry I had written those last 6-7 years prior to me actually putting the book together. It was like all of my 20s
Oh,
in that book.
wow.
So I feel that one thing allowed me to learn about the other. I know that when I was taking acting classes, especially in the beginning, I I loved acting classes because I learned more about myself with each class. I learned so much about myself, and I was also able to learn about people, because you are going into characters and studying characters that could be completely different than you. So I feel they all have I feel that they've all come together to make my current essence.
I love that. Your current essence. That's such a
Yeah.
great way to put things. I want to dive a little bit deeper into 18 inches, the distance between the heart and mind. We touched on it a little bit, but it's a collection of your experiences and other experiences. Is that correct?
So 18 inches is first of all, let me explain to you what the concept of 18 inches. So the concept is that if you take your fingers from your heart to your head, the average distance in most adult human beings, in the average adult human being, is 18 inches. For some people it could be 17 and a half, for some people it could be 17, for some people it could be 18 and a half, but the average distance is 18 inches. So every decision we make is based on 18 inches. Eventually I realized that you need a balance, and that's where the soul comes in. So that's what this book is about. It's different experiences of mine that led me to understanding and learning about the balance between these 18 inches. So
Yeah.
it's a powerful book. I've been, so far, a lot of people have been loving it and have been relating to it, and have been feeling like, wow, you're speaking, for my story, right?
Yes.
So in the end, we're all humans. We're all going to make mistakes, but the important thing is learning from them, right? So in this book, it's all different experiences of mine that I have experienced. Some are very personal, that it took courage for me to reveal these experiences, right? And but I feel that I had to do it. I feel that the job of the artist is to express these emotions and these experiences for other people to learn from them. Sometimes some people lack the words, so I was given the words, right? And my duty is to share them with others, to share them with the world.
I love that. And just from what I've read from you and listened to you speak, I already identify so much in a lot of what you share with the world. But I want to talk about, obviously, decision making, the 18 inches, what do you feel rules you more? Is it your heart or is it your brain?
So I think that I am ruled by my heart. And I
Mm-hmm.
think, and that's one of the things that I talked a lot about in the introduction of the book. I've always been the passionate, all or nothing type. And I think that's great. I think you need that, especially when you're trying to accomplish big dreams.
Mm-hmm.
But I also think you need to use your head. You
Yeah.
need to infiltrate the mind there sometimes, right? But I'm just a passionate Latina. I don't know any other way. So if my heart is not in it, then I'm not doing it. But now I've learned to find that balance.
Mm-hmm.
But I think some people, they're definitely more of the practical type, that they usually use their heads more than their hearts.
Mm-hmm.
And I wouldn't necessarily say that any one person that chooses one side more than the other has more success. I think for everyone, it's all different. It all depends on how first of all, your perspective, your view on success.
Speaking on emotions, what would you say is the better source of inspiration? Is it being in love or is it experiencing a breakup?
It's interesting because I always say that I wish I would have written more about being in love. But I think that sometimes when we're in love, we're so busy experiencing the love.
Yeah.
We're on this high that we don't necessarily stop to write it down, to
Yes.
notate how happy we feel. We were just busy experiencing it. So I definitely have written more because of heartbreak and pain
Mm-hmm.
than on being in love, which is something that I'm slowly trying to change, right? I have a lot of my readers that they're like, we cannot wait until you meet your future husband, because they feel like they've been on this journey with me, right?
Yes.
Of self-discovery, of letting go, of forgiveness, all of these things. But they're like, they want me to like find this love, right? And I'm like, I'm gonna have to write about this love whenever I find it. So
Yeah.
I better write it, right? Like they
Yes.
fighting with me through all of these experiences. I hope that changes for me. So I kind of started that with 18 inches. I dedicated a poem, I mean an entire chapter, the last chapter, and it's about this, like, it's titled Love, right? Because I believe that pain leads us to love in most experiences. And um and i i even wrote a poem called Promises to My Future Husband. So I'm putting myself out there mentally.
Manifesting.
Yeah, manifesting it. So I hope to write more about that kind of love, not just losing love.
I hope so too, girl. You spend your time doing, a myriad of things. And you're also a motivational speaker and you speak at a lot of colleges and universities across the country. So after you speak at these, university colleges, what hope do you have for the future generation of, young people who are going out in the world?
I think my hope always when I speak to the next generation, or even to people my age, or even older than me, I feel that my purpose is to express that you can become the best version of yourself,
Mm-hmm.
that you have a choice. There's certain things that we cannot choose. We can't choose where we were born, or the parents that we had, or certain circumstances that life threw our way. But in our personal lives, we can choose how we see things, how we view things. and we can certainly view them in a much more positive light than how it's happening, right? I've always found it interesting how there are people who, when I've traveled to different areas of the world, and most of the time that I've visited impoverished nations, I have encountered the happiest people.
Wow.
And I think that that is something that you should always remind the next generation. You have the power. You have the power to view things in a different light. You have a power to change how you view things, not only how you were taught to view them. And I believe that life is about decisions. This entire book, 18 Inches, is about 18 decisions that I have made in my life. So for me, I feel that that's my hope, for people to live the best version of themselves that they can. And it has nothing to do with material success or what society has conditioned us to believe that a happy life is about. Everyone can find that light and that joy within themselves, because we were placed with that love within ourselves. But it's all about understanding that self-love, self-acceptance always begins with yourself, and making those decisions to see life in that way.
Now, you recently launched, by very popular demand for your fans, the Mmcm Creative Mythology Candle Collection. I lit a candle.
I have to get you one of mine. Obviously, a lot of people like quotes and positive messages, especially around their homes. I'm a huge candle lover, and I decided to launch this. I had a book launch a few years ago, and we did, as party favors, we did small candles. And so some of my followers started saying that they wanted to buy them. Can they buy them? And I was like, oh, they're not up for sale. They were just party favors.
Yeah.
So I always had that in the back of my head. And I launched it right a week before 18 Inches launched. The first collection is the Mythology Collection. So they're all inspired by my fascination in Greek mythology, and they all have different notes, different they smell amazing. And then the quotes are great too, because who doesn't want to feel inspired, right?
Yes, I love the one, like, I'm gonna not say it perfectly, but about the flame, like, you can have my flame, but don't blow it out.
Yes, so that was actually the quote that inspired the collection. The quote goes by, I can be your fire, but you must promise to never put me out. And I titled that one Prometheus, because the Greek god Prometheus, he gave humans the fire.
That is so exciting. I'm definitely looking forward to more of those collections. In the spirit of keeping things, fun and light in today's new normal. Obviously, we're all in quarantine, but doesn't mean we can't have a little fun with it. So I want to play a little quarantine trivia game with you. We'll just go through
a
couple different scenarios. So the first question is, what has been your guilty pleasure? Is it watching bad TV, becoming addicted to Zoom, or being in your pajamas for a week?
All three.
Yes. This is why I like you. You keep it real.
I've done all those three things multiple times.
Yes. Or what's the bad TV that you're watching?
I gotta say that I don't want to say that it's bad, because I don't like judging, but I gotta say that I watch a little bit more reality than I've ever watched before. I'm not a big reality person, but I did watch the whole Selling Sunset on Netflix.
Oh my gosh, I binged that in like 2 days. It was really bad.
I watched it.
Just
Like, I don't watch reality TV. I'm really into foreign TV series. I have no clue what's going on in reality television. But during this time, let me tell you, I partook.
Listen, everyone has their reality reality show of choice. I know so many of my friends are addicted to Love Island, all of those like, you know, reality snackable TV shows. So I'm definitely into you with this one with the Selling Sunset. All right, one more before I let you go. How often have you been showering? Is it the usual amount of times, more than usual, or definitely less than usual?
I've always showered every day. I'm extremely clean. But in regular life, I usually shower about twice a day,
Okay.
like morning,
And
nighttime.
yes, it makes
So
sense.
yeah, so if I am, you know, when you're just stuck at home, I usually find myself showering every night
Okay.
because
I
I don't
love
have anywhere to go in the morning, you know. So
Yeah, but that's the best feeling. Freshly showered and then you get in your
and then you
sheets.
get in your sheets. Yeah,
Oh,
I can't get into my bed without showering. It's just
same.
not in my nature.
Same, 100% with you there, girl. Well, thank you so much, Mirtha, for chatting with us. I've
So
really
much for
enjoyed
having me.
just hearing your story and everything that you stand for. I'm gonna cop my book, 18 Inches, you know, because I gotta definitely get in that mindset as well. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. Where can everyone follow you online?
So I'm big on Instagram. I still have to get on TikTok. I will.
Yes, girl, get with the TikTok
Yeah,
kids.
I have to catch up. But on Instagram, I am at Mirtha Michelle, at Mirtha Michelle, um, Mirtha. I always like to spell out my first name because sometimes people think it's Martha and it's Mirtha with an I. And yeah, you could also, I just recently started a YouTube channel. So just search Mirtha Michelle as well. Mirtha Michelle on everything.
Love
And
it. Well, thank you. Thank you so much for chatting with us. You guys, this has been another episode of Get It Girl from Home. I'm Natasha. Follow Mirtha, cop your book. We'll see you next time.